SEC Media Days have come and gone for another year, and as always, Alabama was the talk of Hoover. Will it be high tide as the media predicted, or 2011 bring more questions for Nick Saban than answers? We'll discuss it all on Tider Insider Television, which starts right now.
Go inside the Crimson Tide. Tider Insider TV with Rodney Orr and Gary Harris.
And good evening, everybody. Welcome into another edition of Tider Insider TV presented by Buffalo Rock. Tonight, ice cold Pepsi, and they're really, really cold. Put them in the freezer for just a few minutes before we came out here on the set. Our program is brought to you every week by Buffalo Rock, alongside Rodney Orr from TiderInsider.com. Remember, for the latest on the Crimson Tide, it's TiderInsider.com. I'm Gary Harris, and let's get started. We begin with Media Days. On the third and final day, the media's preseason predictions were released. Alabama was picked to win the West and the overall conference championship. Also, 16 selections to the conference's all-SEC squad. 9 of those selections were first team from Alabama. John Huddleston with more now on why Nick Saban isn't placing too much stock in the predictions. Coach, as always, has some concerns.
This is my 10th.
All right, we will try to get that story for you here in just a little bit. But what John was going to tell you, and Coach was going to break it down for you, Rodney, is that, you know, the SEC media predictions are great. They're fun. It's what we do. But you can't put much stock in them. In fact, since the first SEC championship game in 1992, only in 1994, 95, 2007, and 2008 did the media get it right. That's a record of 4-15 if you're keeping count. So you've got some reasons to be concerned. The biggest thing is, as we always know, you don't play them on, you know, on paper, and you don't play them in July. You play it out through the season. And Alabama, like every team's got to answer questions.
Man, so many questions, though, Gary, when you look at the schedule. There's so much competition. You look at Arkansas as an outstanding team. LSU's an outstanding team, obviously. Auburn, certainly the defending national champion, so a lot of difficult games on Alabama's schedule. The SEC is just so competitive. I mean, so that's what makes it so difficult to predict, especially at this day and time. All
right, we've got our story situated now, and now Nick Saban's going to tell you why he doesn't give a flip about what the media says when it comes down to football. Here we go. Here's John Huddleston.
This is my 10th year at SEC Media Day, and I think Coach Spurrier and I probably deserve some kind of an award from the media for going through all these favorite days that we have.
Nick Saban was in a joking mood on Friday, and why not? The Crimson Tide was picked by the media to win the SEC this season, and they earned 16 spots on the all-conference squad. 9 of those were on the first team. So what's it all mean? According to Saban and the Tide players, absolutely nothing.
I mean, it's good to be appreciated and for folks to respect us, but I mean, we try not to really buy into the hype.
Last year, toward the end of the season, we had 5 out of 6 teams in the West were in the top 20. And I think most of those teams have a significant number of players coming back.
Hey, I don't think there's any question as to the high expectations and the high hopes of Tide fans. Just take a look at all these fans. They've been here at the Winfrey Hotel hoping to catch a glimpse of Nick Saban and the Crimson Tide players. Still, both parties will tell you that high expectations and actually living up to them are two different things.
We have a lot of challenges moving forward with our football team this year.
At the top of Saban's list is replacing 4 first-round draft picks.
3 of which were underclassmen, all at critical positions on our team.
But on the plus side, Alabama does return 9 starters on defense.
This year we don't have to worry much about experience. You know, we have a lot of experience now, especially in the front 7 as well as in the defensive back.
And while the old saying is defense wins championships, this team has a long and somewhat treacherous road to travel before any title can be claimed.
I think it's going to be make for a most challenging season, you know, in the West.
In Hoover, John Huddleston, WVUA Sports.
Thanks, John. Well, Rodney, Alabama's biggest question mark is at the quarterback position. That was another hot topic at SEC Media Days. Coach Saban didn't give any indication as to who will be the starter, and he likely won't anytime soon. In fact, when he was asked about what the status is, he said there is no status. The battle continues between A.J. McCarron and Phillip Sims. Neither player has much experience. In fact, Sims has none at the D1 level, which means whoever the quarterback is, other players are going to have to kind of pick it up early on to help these guys out.
The experienced players that we have on our team certainly can help those players in terms of the support and leadership that they help them with to develop the confidence that they need and not put the pressure on them early on to have to win the game.
We got to get ready because I know there's going to be some aspect of the game they get nervous or they get, you know, all shooken up. We got to tell them, hey, man, you got to calm down. We ready. We got your back. So come on.
You know, Rodney, the bottom line is either Sims or McCarron's going to be the starter. Neither one of them have played much. Sims hasn't played at all. McCarron very little. But remember, it was just 2 years ago. John Parker Wilson had graduated. Alabama was going into the 2009 season with a question mark at quarterback. Right. Named Greg McElroy. All he did was go 14-0 and win the national championship. So if you've got the parts, as you heard Coach Saban talking about, other players need to pick it up, and those quarterbacks just have to do their role. They don't have to try to win the game with all the weapons Alabama has offensively.
Yeah, and I think obviously that's what Nick Saban does. You know, he protects his quarterbacks, and you know, I think when you look at Greg McElroy's situation, it was a little bit different by the fact that he had been in the program for 4 years. Obviously, A.J. McCarron's going into his third year. Phillip Sims is really going into his second year since he redshirted and he came a spring early. So these guys, again, the experience, we've discussed it over and over again, is not there, but certainly the talent is, Gary. And again, it's not going to be a situation where they're going to be asked to win the game.
And real quickly, Ronnie, the bottom line is going into that first game against Kent State and probably even Penn State, both quarterbacks look like they're going to play some.
I think we've talked about that, you know, several times as well, Gary, the fact that we do believe that both guys will play early. And, you know, we'll see how the situation, if there's a rotation or whatever it might be as the season progresses. But, again, early on, would expect both of them to play.
All right. Well, of course, who's going to start at quarterback or who's going to start at any position takes a back seat to the big picture, and that is what's going on in life. With April's tornado, football was secondary to the realities of everyday life in Tuscaloosa and West Alabama. But one thing we know, as the healing process continues, Crimson Tide football is playing a big role.
We would certainly like to have a positive impact on what people have to think about and have passion for when our football season starts that could impact our community in a positive way to sort of take a little bit of the tragedy away from the memory of some folks.
This season is really going to be, it's going to be tremendous. It's going to mean, I hope it means a lot to a lot of people. You know, Tuscaloosa, you know, is real big about Alabama football, and we feel like, you know, each and every game, if we can, you know, we can get a W, you know, especially in the Auburn game, you know, that it'll help heal just a little bit better every day.
I had a friend lose his barbershop. I had family, friends lose family. I mean, so the whole time, man, we got to fight for them and bring joy back to them, and, you know, just show them that we're not going to let you down.
Rodney, this tornado is another example of just how resilient human beings are. I know we're flawed, but when it's time to pick up the pieces, we do it, and that's happening here. Still, football, though, is out there, and I think a lot of people are excited about it, and excited because I think once that first football game is played, it'll be a sign that normalcy is here. Everything's back to normal in West Alabama. Yeah,
I would agree with that. You know, Gary, and the players were so involved with all the, you know, the recovery and all of that, and you look at former players that were involved too, and I know that the current players certainly feel, you know, not only an obligation to the city, to the state, and all those things, but also to the, you know, the former players here at Alabama and the history and the tradition here at Alabama and giving back to what's, you know, to the area and the community. And the way they do that is not only helping, but also, as Trent mentioned, you know, let's be honest, one of the greatest things to an Alabama fan is that W. So yeah. I think that's certainly what they're focused on.
Yeah, they'll want to win regardless, but this year, they'll want to win for some other people, too. Well, still to come on Titv, several top prospects were recently in Tuscaloosa. How did their visits go? Rodney will answer the question. Plus, what do several of Bama's top opponents think about the Tide? Views from the other sideline are coming up next. Also, your phone calls and emails, as always, on the program. 205-348-WVUA. That's 348-9882. Or you can email us at titv@wvuatv.com. Stay tuned for more Tider Insider, the show that takes you inside the Crimson Tide. Well, in case you missed it, the last 3 weeks we've picked the games 4 games at a time. I picked Alabama to go 11-1 with the lone loss coming at Penn State. Again, it's early. We'll make week-to-week predictions as well. Rodney, you endeared yourself to the fans. You didn't have to deal with the hate mail that I had to deal with because you picked the Tide to go 12-0.
You know, and I've done that for 3 years in a row now, and it's just by chance. But, you know, again, I say Arkansas, Mississippi State, those are two games that really concern me.
But the thing about it, even if Alabama were to lose to Penn State, it wouldn't affect them in the SEC hunt at all. Of course, we're just making our picks. Doesn't mean they're going to come true. But, you know, guys, opinions that do carry a lot more weight are those coaches that face Alabama in the SEC, especially the SEC West. Let's hear now from a couple of opposing head coaches on what they think of the Crimson Tide.
Alabama will have a very good football team coming back. They always do. They're going to have really good experience on defense and a running back that's, you know, might be the most physical running back in our conference. So they're always tough.
Right now, the West seems very competitive. You know, Arkansas, Mississippi State, Ole Miss, and then certainly Alabama is a very, very talented team. And Auburn won the national championship last year. So it's a, you know, you better be prepared to take each game and play well. Don't make a mistake, because everybody that you play is very talented.
Yeah, forget the SEC as a whole. The West Division has its own murderer's row. Okay, here's some key games for Alabama. And I know they're all key, but these are some that stick out when you glance at the schedule. Arkansas, that early season measuring stick at Florida. The Tide goes to the Swamp for the first time since Mike Shula was the head coach in 2006. They host LSU in a game that could be for all the marbles in the West. And, of course, at Auburn on November 26th. Again, some other big games right here, but those are four right there that, you know, if the Tide goes 4-0 in those games, they got a pretty good chance to make it to the line.
Well, they do. And also, Gary, though, I'll say this again, the week after the LSU game, watch out. Mississippi State in Starkville. I mean, you know, again, it's early. We don't know what's going to happen by that time. You know, LSU might not be as difficult of a game as we're predicting now. But if you just look at it from this perspective at this point in time, as you mentioned, there's a lot of difficult games. Arkansas is going to be very, very good as well, at least offensively.
All right, next on the program, Rodney will have his weekly recruiting update. Tider Insider TV will also be getting your phone calls and your emails. So stay with us right here. More Tider Insider TV coming up right after this. Welcome back to TITV. Alongside Rodney Orr, I'm Gary Harris, and it's time for Rodney's recruiting update. Let's get right to it. Travell Dixon, very interesting prospect, originally from Miami, but he's played in the junior college ranks. He's got some size, he's got some experience, and he's a guy that Alabama's really after.
#1 cornerback in the country. We've talked about him, #1 junior college cornerback. Look at that size, incredible size. You know, Gary, 45 scholarship offers for a junior college player. That's a lot for anybody. Again, #1 junior college corner in the country. He was here last week, said the visit lived up to expectations, if not beyond. I think Alabama's a leader, but I don't think Travell Dixon will make a decision probably till sometime in the fall.
He's certainly not as big, but Geno Smith is a premier cornerback in his own right. Great cover skills, great speed. And we've been hearing we're getting close in terms of a decision on this guy, but he's been back and forth a little bit.
Yeah, he visited here last Thursday, actually, with his parents, and I think the visit went extremely well for Geno. Again, it's an Alabama-Auburn battle. At different times, Gary has been leaning to Alabama, and then he's been leaning to Auburn. It looked like last week he was leaning to Alabama. So, you know, we'll see what happens. He's certainly an interesting prospect to follow if you follow him on the internet, because he has a lot of colorful comments and he likes to tweet a lot.
Came by and visited the TV station. Wants to go into communications, in fact. All right, we keep hearing, when we're talking about quarterbacks, we keep hearing Kill and Winston, but Grayson Lambert still hanging around out there.
You know, he's an interesting prospect, Gary, kind of a late bloomer, if you will, to some extent. He played in a running offense until last season, so he just really started to become acclimated to the passing game, and certainly has great size, and as you see there. And, you know, Alabama's a school that offered him early. He has some other offers, Alabama, LSU, and probably FSU and Arkansas are a couple of 3 or 4 schools that are in the mix. Alabama, again, you know, there's some other quarterbacks out there. Obviously, there's Jameis Winston at Hueytown. There's Gunnar Kiel up in Indiana. So those are 2 guys that, you know, you keep a close eye. But, you know, if Alabama signs that second quarterback, if they don't get either one of those or both of those, Grayson Lambert certainly got to keep an eye on.
You know, a few years ago, Desmond Jennings came out of Pinson Valley High School and signed with Alabama. Played baseball, just made his major league debut with Tampa Bay here recently. Could fly, and this is another exceptional athlete.
Man, he is a tremendous prospect, Gary. He's already got 34 offers. Alabama, Texas, you know, those are some pretty impressive offers right off the bat. Auburn, certainly there are others in the SEC. Most of the SEC, a lot of the SEC is offered. And, You know, again, he's not until 2013, but he's a guy that I think you need to watch out for Alabama.
And Alabama has done well there. Pinson Valley hasn't had a ton of prospects, but Alabama's done well recruiting there in the past. All right, that's your recruiting update. Let's go to the phones. We've got some people waiting. Trey's first up in West Blockton. What's going on, Trey?
Not a whole lot. How y'all doing?
Doing well.
Yeah, Rodney, I know you talked last week, you know, you had Howard and Foster, and you mentioned that Foster was likely to be, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you said he's likely to be a top 3 or 4 overall prospect in 2013. And, of course, you know, the 5-star rating always coincides with somebody who's in the top 5 like that. But in regard to those two areas, ranking and star rating, could you elaborate on O.J. Howard and kind of maybe elaborate on him in general?
Well, you know, Trey, first of all, I don't do the rankings. I don't do those. I don't know what star he'll be assigned by some of these services, but I know that he's a 6'6" or so, 215-pound kid who played at a small school. There's no question about that, but he is a tremendous athlete, had 31 touchdowns on offense last year, over 1,400 yards rushing. He had, you know, over 100 tackles. So, you know, he's a prospect, a guy that could play offense or possibly outside linebacker, or who knows? He could put on a lot of weight and become a defensive end. We'll see. But right now, I think when you look at him, he looks more like a tight end. You know, again, he's a 2013 guy, so he's got 2 more years in high school. So you look at him at 215, Gary, and with that frame, you know, like Carlos Dansby, you remember how he looked coming out of high school. You look at O.J., and he's a guy that has that same kind of frame that could put on a lot of weight. And, you know, we'll see how how he pans out, but he's certainly an outstanding prospect.
All right, phone lines are open at 205-348-WVUA. If you want to get through, now's a good time. David has been waiting in Bessemer. David, how are you?
Hey, man, what's up?
Hey, man.
Hey, man, I was calling about, I'm kind of worried about Arkansas, man. I'm scared they might go there and beat Alabama this year, man.
Well, David, they were really close last year in Fayetteville. You know, in all honesty, if you're an Arkansas fan, you see that as a game you let get away. But let's remember this. They're going to be hyped. They really want to beat Alabama. I think Bobby Petrino feels this is a game they need to win to get over the hump to have a chance to win the SEC. They don't want that early season loss. But let's also keep in mind, Alabama's going to be ready to play too. Yeah, no question about it. Again, it's here too. So obviously that's an advantage to Alabama, you would think. And I agree with you, David. When you look at Arkansas, they're very talented offensively. Obviously, they're replacing Mallett at quarterback, but Tyler Wilson was outstanding when he came off the bench last year. Sometimes that's an advantage to a quarterback. People say it's a disadvantage, but sometimes it's an advantage, Gary. And I think, you know, maybe it might, you know, we'll see how he fares early on the season. They have 3 easy games before Alabama. You know, they always do that. And but we'll see what Tyler Wilson looks like. But, you know, from what we've seen, he's obviously a very talented kid. One thing about Bobby Petrino's offense, Nick Saban has said it's the most difficult preparation they have defensively all year, getting ready for that. All right, David from Gadsden, not on the line, but he left his question on the phone with us. Is there a limit of walk-ons a team can have as far as their total is concerned? Well,
you have what, 85 on scholarship, and I think Alabama usually brings in about 125 total. So that would be roughly 40 walk-ons. So, you know, I don't know if they'll have that many, but you usually don't see them over that 125 number.
Yeah, I do think there's a certain amount of total players that you can have on your roster, including walk-ons. All right, good questions, all of them. Again, phone lines are open at 205-348-WVUA, 348-9882. Give us a ring. We'll be back with more phone calls and emails right after this. Welcome back to Titv. Let's go right back to the phones where Jason in Gardendale has been holding. Jason, welcome in.
Hey, how are you doing, guys?
Doing great, Jason.
Hey, I was wanting to know, could you comment on the recruitment of Barry Sanders Jr.?
All right, Jason, good stuff. First of all, it's not your fault. Everybody calls him that. He actually doesn't want to be referred to as Junior, isn't that correct?
Well, and I don't think he is Junior technically.
Yeah. But it's Barry Sanders, the younger Barry Sanders. Heck of a running back out of Oklahoma.
He is, Gary, and he's an elusive guy. I think, you know, when you start, if you want to kind of envision him maybe a little bit more like D. Hart than what maybe Nick Saban's prototype back is, maybe a Trent Richardson or a Mark Ingram, but he is an outstanding player. There's no question about it. Big playability, and I'm sure you want to know where he's going, and you know that's going to be difficult to answer at this point. Obviously, Oklahoma State, where his dad played, is always going to be a factor in there. You know, there's a lot of talk though that Barry Sanders Sr. would like to see his son go to another school. And I think Alabama and FSU have been 2 schools that have been strongly in the mix, and there's probably others. But I think, you know, Alabama's certainly been a school that's among the top schools on his list.
All right, Jason, thanks for the question. Let's go to Jasper and talk with Daniel. Daniel, welcome in.
I just wanted to ask, will Sittenmore and Malone return to the team, do you think?
Well, Daniel, I'll let Rodney chime in here. It looks pretty good, I'd say, for Malone. Sittenmore, where's that stand?
Well, there's really not been anything official, obviously, Gary, but so that's really difficult for me to tell you right now exactly what's going to happen with Darrington Sittenmore or Kewan Malone. So I think the best thing is that we wait till we comment.
Yeah, as of right now, though, they're suspended, but not off the team officially. All right, thanks for the phone calls. We'll be back with more of Tider Insider TV right after this. Alabama football fans will hear the voice of Eli Gold calling Crimson Tide football through at least 2017. Crimson Tide Sports Network General Manager Jim Caravan announced that Gold has signed a 4-year extension as Alabama's football play-by-play announcer. Eli's in his 3rd decade as the voice of the Tide, having called the action of every Crimson Tide game since 1989. You know, as a sportscaster, he is nationally known, hosting NASCAR Live, also has done NFL football, NHL hockey games on radio and television, college basketball. Well-known announcer. Alabama is lucky to have him, and looking forward to hearing him continue to call Crimson Tide football. All right, folks, some other Tide notes we want to pass along to you. You always call me about Fan Day, set for Sunday, August the 7th. Get there early, as you always do. The kickoff against North Texas has been set for 6:30 p.m. on Fox Sports Net Television, and Taylor Swift has donated $250,000 to the Knicks Kids Fund in hopes of helping with the tornado. Good for her. All right, it's dinner time. You know what that means. This week it's Buddy's Rib and Steak in Northport. I think I'm going with those grilled chicken breasts tonight. Sounds good. Don't forget, if you missed any of tonight's show, you can find it on our website, WVUATV.com. We'll have it posted later on this evening. For Rodney Orr, I'm Gary Harris. Thanks for watching. We'll see you again right here next week on TITV.